Hey Cancer, welcome to your full moon intuitive reading. My name is Dee. Welcome to CatalystEnergies. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is for Cancer Sun, Moon, and Rising, specifically Rising sign, but it all refers to Cancer. If you have any strong Cancer, other strong Cancer in your chart, like if you have a North Node or Venus, you can always listen to these as well, and there's something that applies. Now, in terms of the actual astrology, we speak to Cancer Rising, but then using the intuitive messages from the tarot and other kinds of archetypal images, we can get some sort of intuitive message that kind of hones in on each of the signs and how the different astrological aspects are affecting you on an individual level. So for Cancers, full moon in Leo at 20 degrees Leo and the sun at 20 degrees Aquarius, we're looking at your 2nd and 8th houses. So this has all to do with resources, Cancer. Second house is where the full moon will be, and the second house is about the resources around you. It's about the physical environment that you find yourself placed in and what you have at your disposal to use. So this fills a really wide range here of material, financial resources, inheritance that you came in with, has to do with everything around you that you use, your actual environment itself. And so for Cancers, that is Leo. The energy of Leo is what you have at your disposal, which is confidence and playfulness and romance and a real desire and passion to create and share with the world, the true essence of who you are, opening your heart. And for Cancer, as a sign that is there to hold space, is there to be the container for which the water can then be still and we can find power. Cancer is about the womb, the holy grail, the vessel that holds our emotional, spiritual potential in order to feel safe and secure. And so what you have at your disposal is this confident, playful type of way of walking through the world. The shining sun is the resource that Cancer has in order to individualize throughout their lifetime. So you have the second house of those types of resources, and Aquarius, which is the 8th house for Cancer, and that has to do with the resources that you share with other people. So that has to do with sexuality, it has to do with business resources, it has to do with the resources within a marriage, it has to do with intimacy, emotional resources in a shared relationship, it has to do with trust and the responsibility. It's the idea that once you enter partnership, you do create something, or there is a resource that comes from the creation of what happens when you bring two separate pieces together in a relationship of some sort. And this is, for Cancers, is Aquarius. And so there is this idea for Cancers from a very intellectual, larger context, that everything that we are here to, we're here to take care of the community and the collective. And that has to do specifically for Cancers around the resources that we share. And so you have a very high-minded, kind of wider perspective when it comes to sharing resources as Cancer. And that, that makes sense because you want to hold space, you want to take care of other people. And this is such a intense, emotional house because it has to do with power dynamics, and it has to do with intimacy, and it has to do with the subconscious and the shadow, and it's the depths that we have to go to really understand what motivates our behavior when we enter in a partnership. And so that's why things like sexuality and intimacy also fall under this category. So we have the 8th and the 2nd house being highlighted, especially with the moon being in your 2nd house, showing Cancers what they're, showing them what their true resource is in life, is this shining sun and this confidence. And the sun has just been moving through Aquarius. We've had Mercury moving through Aquarius, really not only illuminating, but showing, giving you the messages and stimulating the communication around what it means to share resources in a partnership and going into those deeper emotional places to understand power dynamics. Now, Venus has moved into Aries now, which is or Mercury's moved into Pisces, sorry, that is the ninth house for Cancer. And the ninth house is what you believe. It is the higher truth. It is that which you, it is the understanding that you have cultivated about the nature of reality. And it's the understanding itself that is the magical act, because you take all these ideas and you put them together, and there's a spark of inspiration, right? And this is where wisdom comes from, and teaching, and a larger cultural conception. And for Cancers, this, being in Pisces is what you believe is in the divinity of everything, is in the emotional nature, where that we're emotionally all connected by love. Absolutely. And so Neptune's been here really stimulating this place for you for a long time now. And that Mercury's come in and is going to go retrograde. It will be more confusing, I think, for Cancers to really get a handle on what is it I believe, what is it that is the truth for me, because it's it's where, as you create more for yourself, as you start to develop what your legacy is going to be in this lifetime, it comes out of this understanding and what you believe. And so for Cancer, it's going to be there's going to be more messages, and I think that's going to really, I think Cancers will certainly benefit from taking a perspective that's a little bit wider and a little bit further up. And the reading will show this as well. It's also, as much as also being able to, being able to communicate that as well, and be part of kind of a spiritual, I wouldn't say necessarily community, but, really understanding what it is that you believe when it comes to your divine mission, the work within, the spiritual life within, like your true nature, within the context of the whole. And so, and then Venus now moving into Aries is the 10th house for Cancer. This is your career house. This is the place where, your public persona, where you're going to leave your legacy that's going to last. The 10th house is about these structures, these institutional structures, and institutional power. That's also what 10th house is. It's the power that you have, that people give you because of what you've been able to provide to the community. And that's usually through a career, but not everybody has a career necessarily. So Chiron's going to be here for a while. This has really been triggering Cancers in terms of what their career is, which is very ambitious, full of potential, full of action, creative potential, absolutely. And there's a wound here, and Venus is going to come along and give all of us an opportunity to really give voice to that, and also to do something constructive and creative to resolve that somehow, or at least give it a voice, or make it real, or soothe it in some ways. Venus is very healing, so we can, but for Cancer specifically, as she lines up with Chiron, is going to really give some voice to that wound about the personal ambition about your career, for Cancers. And there's a lot happening here, but it's gonna require some awareness of what you have, and what you have with others, and what you believe about the nature of reality, and especially with Mercury. So let's look at the cards, because I think that they're going to give a lot of perspective. So we have two twos. We have the High Priestess, which is the moon herself, and then the Two of Wands, which is an Aries card. It is the first manifestation of that the potential could turn into something real. He sees, he's looking out. He's got the world in his hands. He's looking out over the horizon. He's in between these two poles, and so the creative force kind of like is holding him in, or giving him a boundary, and he sees now like what the potential could be for the first time. And then the Priestess is the void. She is the energy. She's the moon. She's the energy that fills the vessel. It is the stillness within that from which we are able to create. It is the yin of the yin and yang. It is our sacred feminine from a very esoteric, outside of gender or manifested in material way. Cancer, so connecting to the moon is especially about what your resource is, Absolutely. And that there is a lot of potential for you right now. And the potential is going to be absolutely around your career, and then also to your social networks. But I do feel like that it's going to be, and there's a lot of need for you to start going within and to get into that still space. And that's going to show you about what resources you do have. Now, the Akashic Tarot is all in the emotional element, the Three of Roses and the Eight of Roses, the loving elementals, and then the Sangha, or the community. You gotta be able to get into these spaces emotionally, from a loving perspective, from a Pisces perspective, really. You have to suspend some of your wanting to like take care of others necessarily. I mean, obviously being part of a community is that, but that's the thing, is like, what do you believe about being part of a community? Do you need to be the one that's always taking care of other people? And what about what you have for yourself? I think that you, and then let's just look at this first, the Condor. You're too enmeshed in the situation. You got to take a step back to see the bigger picture before you can make any decisions. There seems to be a need, especially with Neptune in your 9th house now in Pisces, there seems to be a need for Cancer to suspend some belief a little bit in order to let these loving elementals, this is very innocent and childlike, and very much outside of the realm of what we know is what's going on Earth. The elementals, they are fairies and gnomes and magic creatures that you can only see when you're a child. And Leo is very youthful. It is about childhood innocence. It's about playing. And again, that is a resource that you have at your disposal, is to be playful and childlike. And then when you come to the Eight of Roses, the community, the spiritual community, especially for Cancers, because it is Aquarius, you're looking at the collective. I think that there is a need to connect to not only these loving elementals, but to connect to a community, a spiritual community, so that you are also supported and not just the one supporting everybody else, obviously. And I think that's going to be something that's going to come up through your belief system being challenged by a Mercury retrograde about what is it do you believe? What is the truth? And for you, the truth is this divine unity. But, and Neptune's been really stimulating that, and Mercury certainly could help, but with the retrograde, it's going to be confusing. And I think that this is, get some space from it, get the higher perspective, which is very Aquarian in that way, about your shared resources with people. Be aware of more of the collective. But I think Cancer, you really do need to focus on where this moon is going to be to show you the potential of what you have for yourself. Absolutely. And especially here with these 2 2s, I mean, this is like so much the first manifestation of potential in Cancer. There's so much potential here, and your career is really, really wants to burst forth. And when we get into Aries season, I think that's going to take off even more. But for now, it's going to, taking the feminine, the sacred feminine, the ability to be still, the ability to nurture yourself, the ability to just sit with things and go within, I think is really going to help. But I think too, also, it's suspending your belief in order to be playful and to connect with a spiritual community, so that you have support for yourself and you're not the only one supporting. But there's something that you need, a higher perspective, and I think that higher perspective is coming from the Aquarius sun in your 8th house, to show you the larger context of what it means to share resources. It doesn't have to be so like detached and aloof necessarily. That's like the part of Aquarius that's not exactly fully formed, because you're not attaching to your emotions. Aquarians are very much in line with their emotions. They just don't act out of them all the time. They act from a higher perspective. So Cancer, it's about connecting with that community and giving yourself some space from the situation a little bit, so you can see the perspective from out here. You have a perspective that's from out here. And don't be afraid to open your heart and be playful, because that is one of the best things you have at your disposal. And that'll allow you to connect to what you may be, the piece that might be missing in terms of your spiritual belief system. So Cancer, thank you for being here. Check out the description box below. That has all the deets. Facebook is the hub. It shows you where everything's happening. That's when you can book a reading with me. You can also contact me, reach out, ask questions, just say hi, give feedback, whatever. I'd love to connect. Cancer, have a great full moon. Take care of yourselves. Get part of a community that's going to help in that mutual support. And don't be afraid to play. All right, Cancer, take care of yourself. Bye.